Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to our podcast. Today, I am joined with our founder and CEO, Neil Shah, and the wonderful Dr. Nisha Chellam. How are you doing today, Dr. Chellam?
Hey, Nisha.
Fantastic. I'm so glad to be here.
So excited to have you on. I have been waiting for this one.
Yeah, great to have you. And everyone's excited to hear some insights.
Oh, I hope I'm going to give them mind-blowing insights.
Great.
To keep the energy up, I'm going to go ahead and start with our lightning round questions,
Oh,
and then
wow.
we'll get right into it. So, tell me, what is the biggest health trend right now that's actually dangerous?
I think it's the hormone replacement therapy. I love it, but I really do believe it's being misused in a very big way.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. I'll have to ask to unpack that.
Yeah.
But well, let's see. Then the next one on the lightning round is what's one supplement that every professional should consider taking?
You know, I always think about this. I'm torn between omega-3s and magnesium, but I think I'm going to go for magnesium. I find consistently those two elements are really low in most people. So I'm almost giving away omega-3 and magnesium, but I
Yeah.
would say yes, magnesium. Let's go with magnesium.
I
Okay.
love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Great.
Now tell me, what is the best investment that you can make in your health for like maybe under $100?
A pair of walking shoes.
Okay.
I love it. You
Okay.
hear that, audience? I will say, I think every single person that we have asked for advice on this whole podcast for the last few weeks has said walking. So this is your sign. Fine.
Nice.
Go get those-
Yeah.
go get those walking shoes.
That's great. And then if you could only track one biomarker for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I think you should check your blood pressure, honestly.
Mm.
If there's
Silent
anything,
killer.
as long as your pressure is good,
Yeah.
you will your cardiovascular health. That's a great marker.
Yeah. Okay.
I love it.
Awesome.
And honestly, you can get a blood pressure monitor and some nice walking shoes for $100. So go ahead and make the investment.
And have some money left for a supplement. While you're at
Yes,
it.
correct. Everything that I said you could do under $100.
Life
Nice.
hack. Someone come sponsor us.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. That's awesome.
So, Dr. Tellem, you call yourself, interestingly, a recovering physician. That's a bold statement. What made you recover from traditional medicine, and what are you really referring to when you call yourself a recovering physician?
Yeah. I was listening to an NPR podcast where they have this thing about language, and they were describing what the word physician means.
Mm.
And it was like something like starts with physic or physicus or something, but it's a person who diagnoses and gives remedies that are natural. That's how it comes, in the history of that language. A doctor is someone who teaches, and it could be a doctorate of physiology, theology, medicine. And I really think most medical doctors should be referred to as physicians. But a physician is supposed to give you natural treatments, and that's not something I ever learned through medical school. I learned about disease, so a pill for every ill, and that was my mindset. It was almost like I know exactly what to do. And for me to recover from that mode of dogmatism and do something different, I felt like I went back to the roots of what a physician should be, which is asking the question, why, and looking at what can this person do today that will shift their health without me writing a prescription.
I love that answer. That's so interesting. I didn't know about the etymology of the word physician. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, totally. And then, I think, following up on that, you kind of had the pivot, when, you said you were at 42, you had normal blood tests, but you felt terrible. Tell us more about what were you feeling? How is someone who's in the same boat, as you, but doesn't have medical expertise like you did, can advocate for themselves in that situation?
I was as bad as everybody else without medical experience, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So I used to work for the VA, which is to me a retirement job. You work 5 days, it is a 9 to 5 job, or I work from 7 to 3, weekends off, 11 public holidays, 21 paid vacation, you get personal time off. Literally, I could
Yeah.
have retired. What happened is around that time, I remember seeing a lot of veterans, and we have goals, targets to meet. Their LDL cholesterol should be a certain number, blood pressure should be a certain number. Our bonus was tied to those things.
Mm.
Very easy to do that because you keep giving medications till you get those numbers.
Mm.
But what I noticed was my patients were getting sicker and sicker. And this was around the time the Iran Afghan war was going, Iran Iraq,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
around that time. And I remember feeling very stressed because my patient load from 8 to 10 patients a day went up to 25 to 30 patients a day. It was a
Wow.
huge increase.
Wow.
And I was, all my patients were getting sicker and sicker the more I intervened. And I remember feeling, um, I was, it's almost like going to work and failing every day, time after time. And
Mm.
there's no other profession where you go to work and are solving the same problem without solving it. Somebody comes to me with
Mm.
pain, I'm giving them a medication.
Yeah.
2 months later, they come back with more pain. I'm upping their medication, adding something else for the side effect. You're literally failing every day.
Mm.
And I didn't like that feeling till one of my patients who actually left when I told him, you need to take a medication for your bone density, came back with a higher bone density and told me about a different way of living. And
Mm.
I remember feeling at that time, I was in my 40s. I had had migraine headaches, probably about once or twice a month. I would call in sick maybe once in 3 months because I just would get up and puke and had this throbbing headache. I walked around with a drug called Flonase because I was constantly congested. I was
Mm.
Mm.
always inflamed. I was gaining weight. I had 2 kids by then, but I was just gaining weight, and I assumed like everybody in around me was gaining weight around that time. It wasn't a
Mm.
big deal. I had no energy when I came back, and this was like I'm telling you, literally a 9 to 5 job. I came back,
Wow.
but I would finish my notes right up till midnight and then wake up the next day, do the things for the kids, and try to get to work. I almost felt like, and I was moody, very moody.
Mm.
I just couldn't have a conversation with my kids without yelling or being upset about something.
Mm.
Mm.
And I remember thinking after speaking to this particular patient, there's something actually wrong with me and I need to go get myself checked. Obviously, being a physician, I ordered my own blood test and everything came back. What B12 was low, vitamin D was low. And at that time, I was an omnivorous eater. So it wasn't like a vegan that my B12 would be low. And I replaced those. But then I called one of my endocrinology friends and I said, my thyroid looks a little odd. Do you think I should do anything? She said, just check it in 6 months. So I went to University of Michigan, and which is like one of the great universities. Got an appointment with an endocrinologist 4 months later. Waited
Mm.
for that, and I showed up, and she said, "You know what? Well, you just need to exercise better and eat differently, or continue
Yeah.
to do that, and you'll be fine."
Mm.
And I remember feeling I used to drink a pot of coffee at 2 p.m. to see
Wow.
my afternoon patients because I just
Wow.
had the energy. And I assumed that was normal because I was a busy mother. And a dietitian had come to my office and she said, you should look up functional medicine. It's just mind blowing. And I'm one of those, if somebody tells me something is mind blowing, I would just jump. And I was like, I need a break for 5 days. I'm going to go for this conference. And they had a guarantee at that time saying, if you don't like what we are telling you, we'll give you your money back. No questions
Mm.
asked. 2 days. And I was so sure I was getting my money back. So I went. I went in for the pre-day and the conference, and by the second day, and I remember Mark Hyman was the keynote speaker. I
Mm.
Mm.
was sobbing because for the first time in my life, I realized what we were missing in medicine. I mean, I hated my job. It was just a cushy job, but I was getting nowhere with that.
Mm.
I was not helping
Wow.
our patients. I was not helping myself.
Mm.
And I remember going back home, doing all the tests and finding that I had the most common autoimmune condition is Hashimoto's, which is where the immune system attacks your thyroid. I had
Yeah.
full-blown Hashimoto's.
Wow.
And it was in functional medicine, they talk about detoxification. I'm like, okay, these are all buzzwords. I don't know
Yeah.
what this means. So I learned what to do. And I remember I went to the conference in September. November, I started the so-called detox process where I cleaned up my diet, went completely plant-based because that's what seemed to work for me at that time. And I remember it was June. So November to June, I had eaten differently, I was exercising differently. And suddenly I woke up one day at 4 o'clock, like literally my brain turned on with no, what that, like I got to go get my pot of coffee kind of a thing. I just woke up, I was awake. I
That's
realized I hadn't had a migraine headache in 3 months. I hadn't used my
Mm.
Flonase.
wow.
It was just mind blowing as far as I was concerned. I just couldn't go back to practicing traditional medicine.
Wow.
Mm.
And
That's
yeah,
I
go ahead.
Wow.
I need to get my mom in with you because of what you just
Yeah.
is like so many of the things that she's feeling right now as well. And she's just like, yeah, this is a normal part of getting older. And this is what the process is like, is just constantly being tired. And, she also, like you mentioned osteoporosis earlier. She has osteoporosis, and there's, autoimmune diseases and just constant flare ups. Oh my goodness, the migraines that lead to the puking. Wow.
Yeah,
It's not normal. Okay, that's good to know. That's really, really good to know. I really appreciate these insights. But like we were talking about this earlier, that like most of our audience is right now like professionals who are at the peak of their career and they're absolutely crushing it, but their bodies are kind of giving up on them and they're kind of falling apart. So what do you think is like the biggest mistake that high performers like yourself tend to make with their health?
oh my God, I'm telling you, they're just the basics.
Mhm.
Just in general, people don't sleep enough. I
Mm,
Mm.
wish,
Mhm.
I wish we could just get to bed at the right time.
mm,
So
Yeah.
there's something about the circadian rhythm of the body, right? We have our internal clock, just like how you have 24 hours day and night. We have something that happens within our body.
mhm.
Your stomach starts detoxing around 7, so you're supposed to have your last meal at 4 p.m., which is not practical for most people, right?
Right.
So I negotiate with my patients, can you stop eating by 6? And then your
Mm.
liver
Wow.
detoxes between 8 and 9, your brain detoxes at 10, and your liver detoxes again at 3 a.m.
Wow.
And most of us, I don't know when I've gone to bed before at 10 o'clock. That's my dream. It's my dream to get to bed at 10.
Yeah.
I love sleeping. I would sleep the minute I hit the bed, but I have not been able to. And I think, and I wake up at 4 still.
Wow.
I think that is probably the most important habit we all should develop.
Mhm.
It's to, it's almost like you have to have a foreplay before you go to bed with your brain.
Yeah.
Cut it off. Like when you work on the computer and try to go to bed, it's like watching a horror movie and going to bed.
Mm.
Yeah.
So spend time on figuring out you can get to bed. And when you do, let me know.
All right. That's definitely good to know. I mean, good
Went to
insights.
bed at 3 a.m. last night, so I need the advice. Yeah.
Your liver was detoxing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like I caught the back end. Wow. Cool.
Anyways,
And I guess maybe as follow up to that, like for professionals, especially mid career, like what have you seen as like a reality check? That often happens to like shift people's behavior or seek kind of a different way of life.
well, get the right spouse. Most of the men
Mm.
who come to me come because their wives are worried about their health. They have no clue what's going
Yeah.
on. And they'll say, I'll ask them, so why are you here? How did you hear about functional medicine? They say, I don't know. My wife asked me to come and see you. And it's like, I think that's number one.
Yeah.
You'll find that if you can do just see any functional medical doctor, it doesn't matter, but get your functional medical labs done.
Mm.
Mm.
There's
Mm.
nothing um, that can shock people when they see their numbers, and
Mm.
and you
That's
need a
interesting.
doctor
Yeah.
who will actually interpret those numbers and connect them to what you're experiencing. So you can have people who come and say, I just have occasional heartburn, I take Tums,
Yeah.
I am occasionally my back pains, but I know exactly why it happens. But when you say occasional suddenly, or I've never had a bowel movement,
Oh,
I don't think I'm eating enough. These are the excuses they give themselves.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, I just forget things, and I think it's just because I'm too busy. But when you do
Yeah.
the blood work and you see that like every cell is inflamed,
Mm.
and they
Hmm.
have so much of sugar and triglycerides and high blood pressure going,
Yeah.
literally destroying every aspect of their body,
Yeah.
it's just mind blowing how they
Yeah.
shift their health.
Yep.
Wow.
That's
Yes.
interesting. That's
That's
interesting.
so
So the
interesting.
reality check is see a functional medical doctor and make
Yeah.
sure your spouse cares about your health.
Yeah.
Okay, quick plug. So for people who are listening right now, so what do they do if they want to see a functional medicine doctor? Just look up functional medicine doctor near me, and insurance covers that.
So the company I work for, Parsley Health,
Mhm.
covers insurance in New York. I think we cover Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, and then
Mm.
similarly we cover take insurance in California.
Okay, got it.
But the rest of the states, if anybody's from insurance, reach out so we can partner with you guys in different states. In its funny insurance, we have to partner with in every state,
Mhm.
and it would be great if we could be covered across the country, but it takes a lot of effort.
I
But
see.
yes, we do take insurance. But even when you think about the cash price when you pay, I don't know who ever goes and sees a doctor for free. We have a deductible. My deductible is 25,000. So
Wow.
if I'm going to the doctor, I am paying every time I go to the doctor. So I don't know this myth of, everything is covered by my insurance for majority of Americans.
That's
Is
a whole
Mm.
nother can of worms that we can
yes.
get into on
Hmm.
this. We can
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes.
a podcast about that. I know Neil has a lot to say on.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I have a lot to say on the health insurance industry, but I'll
Yes. But
keep
I'm
it
just
on
saying, yeah,
topic.
it's
Yeah.
worth it. It's worth
Yeah.
it to get your testing done, have a conversation with a functional medical doctor. And I say functional medicine because to me, that has been the first time I've understood physiology and biochemistry
Mhm.
being utilized
Mm.
in clinical medicine. Most of clinical medicine is
Mm.
pathology and pharmacology. So we're looking
Mm.
at a disease and how the drug, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all we're taught. Well, all of the first 1.5 years is about the basic sciences, and after that, it's all about pathology and pharmacology. And every
Mhm.
doctor it goes into medical school excited to write their first prescription. That's how we're groomed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I know how to diagnose you and give you the right medication, I've made
Hmm.
it. But we're never taught about health, and that's why when people get angry with physicians and say she never talked to me about my lifestyle, never asked a single question, because we were not trained, we were
Hmm.
not taught health is feasible,
Yeah.
disease is inevitable. That's what we were taught, and
Yeah.
everybody has disease, and you need to know the 365 causes of liver cirrhosis, or you
Yeah.
can pass the exam, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
So
guess follow up to that point though. I guess it's doesn't seem like it's all about incentives. Like there's a clearly incentive of the system on one side of like every prescription generates profits and money, for the pharmaceutical industry. But on the other side, telling somebody to go for a walk outside or walk in the grass or get some sunshine, it's free and there isn't as much of a profit motive. And do you think that's kind of like a inherent conflict in why people continue to kind of steer people towards taking pills for their
yeah,
illnesses?
I don't know if I knew that was the incentive. This is where I would say in medical school the biggest mistake, or through residency that I've made,
Yeah.
is I just assumed this is how you treat people. Like people
Yeah.
come to you and this is all you treat. It wasn't like a conspiracy theory. I didn't know that I was getting paid per prescription. I didn't know the
Yeah.
stronger the prescription I get paid. Like
Yeah.
the person in the VA who used to get the biggest bonus was our nephrologist, because he had dialysis every day. Those were the most
Mm. Hmm.
complex. It's the most
Yeah.
expensive treatment.
Yeah.
So he got
Yeah.
the biggest bonus because he was the biggest draw. And he
Yeah.
did the least amount of work because most of the dialysis is done by the dialysis nurse. All he
Yeah.
needs to do is review the labs and give interventions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I will say the system is so messed up.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was designed to be that way.
Yeah.
I'm sure some business person who got and decided,
Yeah.
you know what, if this and this is done, we get more money. So
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
need to start doing this and this, and we need people who do this and this
Yeah.
because they draw in the most money. And I
Yeah.
remember when I first had a billing service, she would call and she would tell, this, are you going to see this person more often? They have great insurance. And I'm like, she's perfectly
Mm.
healthy. I need to see her only once a month, once a year. And that is how that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. We get incentivized because this is how we're getting paid.
Yeah.
We don't even think that we're doing that. It's not like I
Yeah.
was looking at it for, oh my God. But yes, some people, and then she will say, try to avoid seeing this patient because their insurance doesn't
Yeah.
pay.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Crazy.
it's just
Yeah.
mind blowing how we as
Yeah.
physicians never think about it. I don't even know what
Yeah.
insurance you have when you come to see me. It's just when my biller
Yeah.
turns around and says,
Yeah.
you have this person having crappy insurance, make sure you collect the copay. Because
Yeah.
keep in mind, medicine is not free,
Mm.
Yeah.
right? You have to pay. And a medical doctor, you want the doctor to call you, you want an answering service, you want them to be 24/7. Who's paying for all of this? Not your
Hmm.
insurance. It's the
Yeah.
individual physician that's doing that. So
Mm.
yes, we are incentivized to keep our doors open,
Mhm.
but I think sometimes it can, when you don't know an alternative and you know is writing a prescription.
Hmm.
And also now you get incentivized to write the cheapest prescription or the
Mhm.
Hmm.
generic version,
Mhm.
even if you don't think it's the patient says, I don't think this works for me, like, and I give a levothyroxine. No, everybody says, this doesn't work for me, but Synthroid works, and I have to fight with the insurance. These are all the things that happen at back doors, and we don't even realize that's what we're doing. So when
Right.
Yeah.
people say, the doctors are corrupt, they are trying to get incentivized, we don't know that. We're just doing this
Yeah.
because we're asked to. And
Wow.
Yeah.
medics don't even ask a
Yeah.
question.
It's like a system issue.
It's a
Yeah.
system issue,
Yeah.
yes.
For
Yeah.
the sake of everyone, do you have time to write a book, Dr. Chellam?
Well, I don't. I've actually written a book,
Yeah,
and
it is another one.
I know, but yeah, real book where I'm sitting and writing about these things, maybe someday. When
That's
because my parents are, they live till their 90s, so there's a potential I'm going to hit 100. I might have enough time to
Nice.
write a book.
that's
Yeah.
great for us. That's good for
Nice.
us. I'm really glad to hear that.
Nice.
I guess maybe like kind of like going into like some like practical advice or like hacks, but for someone who is maybe like in their mid 40s, say 45, and they're starting to feel old, what are like the top 3 things that they should start to investigate immediately and start to like kind of like start thinking about?
Yeah. I think like I've mentioned before, always check your blood pressure. That's
Right,
number
of
one.
course.
Number two, see a functional medical doctor, get your blood work done, identify the problem. Like
Mm,
everybody walks around saying, I'm 42. The worst thing that I hear is, I'm in my 40s. My father had this in his 40s. My mother had this, so this is natural for me to have it. I think
Mm.
that's something that people need to move out of. I think you should check your metabolic health. And metabolic health will include your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your cholesterol, particularly the so-called good cholesterol. And I'm sure Dr. Tom Dayspring, who talks a lot about lipid and who I learn a lot from, will kill me for saying it's a good cholesterol, but that's how people remember it. The HDL, the high density lipoprotein, that level, triglycerides,
right.
and your waist circumference. So sometimes you can be the same weight because you're losing muscle mass, and
Mm.
just your pant size will change.
Mm,
And
Mm.
a lot of times guys don't change their pant size. If you see, and I had used to have a meme, a card where the same pant they wear as they get older, but their belt keeps going down because their stomach is occupying the upper portion, and that's what happens. I think when that happens,
That's a
right?
funny meme.
Yeah, when you find that your belt, you're going, having to go bigger on your belt, I think it's time to take it's a reality check at that point. These are all things that you can do at home, and it's not like, and for heaven's sake, please don't go to a regular doctor and say my blood tests are fine, but I'm just feeling old.
mm,
Mm.
yeah.
There is no, in my opinion, and in the science that we have learned, you really don't age till you're in your 80s. When I say age, meaning stamina going down, energy going down, and you are a little slower. You're not running as fast from the parking structure into the store. Those things really slow down in your 80s. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
before that, 40s is like the peak of your life. No one
Mm.
Yeah.
should feel old at 40. In fact, you
Mm.
will be the best shape of your health in 40 much better than your 20s, because
Really?
Mm,
Wow.
mature, yeah, you're more
Yeah.
mature, you understand. It may be, and that's the problem, right? The fourth decade is when your career is at its peak, or you're building, you finally know what you want in life.
mhm,
At the same time, your health, your family, everything comes together. The
mm.
fourth decade is just amazing if you can focus on your health too.
Hmm. That's great
I love
advice. Yeah.
that really is. I mean, also like I do feel like as like a kind of, for lack of a better word, like a youth obsessed like society, that's definitely really great to hear, because I just turned 25 like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, all right, my life is over. Like I'm old now. Like what next? Like, I wake up and my back hurts, and like if I sleep wrong, my neck hurts, and like all of this. And I was like, okay, like my youth is gone, but that's not true at all. I just started, like I'm in like my second year of being like a full adult. So I think that's a really important insight to hear, that you are not old till you're in your 80s, guys. You hear that, everybody at home?
Even that might be questionable. I have people 86 playing 2 hours of tennis, and I'm like, I'm breathless when I listen.
Wow. That's amazing. That's
Yes,
amazing.
I'm jealous. I'm breathless after 15 minutes of time.
And
yes.
then I guess, curious to hear about like some of the innovations that are happening. I think we've seen things like peptide therapy. It sounds like science fiction. I think, yeah. What else is going on? A lot of stuff around obesity. Are there any other innovations that you're like really excited about? That are under discussed.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of more, peptides are, they mimic our natural hormone. And that's
Yeah.
a good thing. That's what I find about the shift in the pharmaceuticals. We're working with our body, with our,
Yeah.
like the immunotherapies. Nobody is now giving you a whole bunch of chemicals. And which is why I know as much as GLP-1 gets, and which might be another big health trend, which can be
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
However, what I like about, and there are medicines that are coming down where you get an injection. It's used for disease like where you lose muscle mass. Now you're
Okay.
going to get a drug that is improve your muscle mass and help you lose weight, and
Mm.
Mm,
that's going to be a new one that'll come down the pipeline. There's a lot of treatments for cholesterol lowering where
Wow.
they're very difficult. We have something called LP little a, which is a genetic trait. It makes the cholesterol stick. It's called
Hmm.
genetic cement. And these are the people who get these early heart attacks, even though they might be
Mm.
normal BMI.
Mm.
So there are a lot of drugs that are coming down to solve those problems.
Hmm.
And to me, they still should be provided for by someone who's educated on them. These are not
Yeah.
like, I mean, they are great biohacks. Everybody's compounding these drugs and injecting them, feeling fabulous. At
Yeah.
20 and 30, anything you do will be make you fabulous. But when
Yeah.
you get to the 40s and 50s, you really need some guidance. And before you go to those trends, I think the biggest trend should be, can we get the 5 pillars of health
Hmm.
mm,
optimized? And I don't think people are doing that, which is your movement. We're all
yeah.
sitting 8 hours in front of the computer, if not more. And we're sitting, we're driving in a car, going into a conditioned building, sitting in front of a building, getting
Yeah.
back home, sitting in at the dining table, sitting and scrolling through our phone or watching something on the computer. It's constantly sitting. So movement. The other
Yeah.
one is nutrition. Nutrition
Mm,
is so confusing, right? Everybody's talking about protein and fats, but nutrition, human beings ate just about anything that they wanted. They would go, like in your soil, what grew is what
mhm,
you ate. It
Yeah.
wasn't like there was a good food or a bad food, but you ate real food.
mhm,
And I'm very glad that they're going to bring out those labels, which says just like the cigarette smoking, where a lot of the food packets are going to have not recommended for human consumption, to
Mm.
Doritos, M&Ms, and Skittles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So people can at least make that informed choice. Hey, I'm eating something that is really not recommended for my
Yeah.
consumption,
Yeah.
and this might be more appropriate. But
Yeah.
nutrition, do what you think you love to do, but make it as whole and natural as possible. If there's something called natural, everything around us is cultivated. And then,
Yep.
of course, managing your stress. We're all chronically stressed. We can choose to be stressed, right? The
Hmm.
situation is the situation. How you respond to it is how you would, um, is what we call as stress.
Yeah.
Mm,
Tell me I'm so stressed by my mom. She tells me that. I said, how else can you choose to respond to that instead of saying you're
Yeah.
stressed? And then, of course, the community you hang around with. If you are hanging around with one-uppers, like when somebody says, I have a hip pain here, I've not been able to talk. Oh my God, both my hips hurt. And then the third one says, my hips and back hurt. I mean,
mm,
that's the community you're around. You're celebrating illnesses, right?
mm,
Yeah.
You need to have the right kind of community. And of course, nothing better than sleep. When you sleep over things, honestly, your brain is going to work much better. So I
mm,
feel instead of going to those biohacks and spending 20, 30,000 to do all these, body scans and blood tests, start with the basics, things that you can do for
Yeah.
free. Focus
yeah,
on that, and everything else comes, it's just, I would, what do they call them? Bells and whistles.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's,
I
yeah,
think
great.
that's
Great
great.
perspective.
I am curious just because like there is such like a trend going on around like Ozempic and like GLP-1s and stuff like that. So in your like professional opinion, you think that it probably does more harm than good.
I personally love the drugs. I will tell you this. When I choose a patient who needs to get it, it's
Mhm,
a patient who's done a lot of work. They've actually exercised. They're busy women who've been exercising, eating right, cannot move a pound here or there. And then when I start them on a low dose of the drug, literally their food noise goes. Their personality changes. Suddenly they realize they've been eating 30 to 40% more than what they needed. It literally
Hmm.
right sizes their food for them.
mhm,
And they have this enormous energy. They start hitting the gym better. And
mhm,
my hope is someday we will see that when people develop those good habits of cooking at home and exercising, feeling good about themselves, we can wean them off these drugs. And there is some data that's coming out that we can potentially after 3 years, but you got to get those foundations. And when I don't know if you've ever met people who are overweight and obese, it is constantly on their minds.
mhm,
I
Hmm.
mean, many of us, we look at these morbidly obese people and think, why can't they do something about it? They are constantly thinking about it. They feel belittled. Everybody treats them differently. They just don't know what to do. It's very, very difficult. It's a wiring of the brain, and the GLP works on the wiring of the brain. Having said that, the bigger challenge is all of our, yeah, whether it be Hollywood or Bollywood, since I come from India,
mhm,
everybody's using this to get that extra 5 to 7 pounds that they would like to get
yeah.
rid of, right?
Hmm.
And we don't know what that's going to, and they're not getting it from a physician or the pharmaceuticals. They're getting compounded versions of it.
Mhm,
And by the time you get like a 50-day supply, by day 30 it's ineffective. They're injecting this thing.
mhm,
I've seen people get into trouble with eating disordered eating, and
mhm,
that gives you a slew of other problems. So
mhm,
this should not be a drug that people should be using without medical guidance and somebody who's familiar with the drug. And I mean, this is all I do is GLP-1. I keep reading about it because I'm so fascinated by the drug. And it was initially discovered, if I remember right, on the history, for when they were looking for a treatment for Alzheimer's.
mhm.
Because that's how they discovered, and they find these mice, their blood sugars were going down, they were losing weight, they were able to find their way through the maze when
Right.
you use the initial GLP. So a lot more will be coming around down the pipeline with the GLP being used for addiction therapy, and Alzheimer's disease, and that's going to be exciting too. And at
Yeah.
that time, no one's going to judge it. We
Yes.
seem to judge it when it comes for obesity.
Hmm.
Wow. I love that. That was so beautifully and well said. Like I think that there is a lot of stigma when it comes to that, and that there's a whole lot of judgment. And I think that like we forget the compassion and empathy side of it, and understanding that like that could be any one of us. And speaking of like kind of like nutrition, and I know you mentioned the like food labels and stuff like that. I think like in European countries they do that a lot. Like they give a grade to the food, which I think is really cool. Like A through F, like, and then
Yes.
you can choose, do you want to eat this? Yes or no. And I think that that is something that as a society as a whole would be an amazing thing that we would be able to do together. But you talk a lot about like food and nutrition, and I know you mentioned like eating at home and eating healthy, but like I guess, what is the biggest nutritional mistake that you see busy professionals make?
I think the grab and go culture, right? They do a protein bar, they will do a protein shake,
Mm,
and they're constipated. They think they're getting the right amount of nutrition, like we talk about these macros. If there's anything, I think protein bars should be labeled as not recommended for human consumption, in my opinion, and protein
yeah.
drinks.
Yeah.
Literally, the if you're working so hard, you don't have time for a meal. I don't think you have. That is the fuel. So food is not just calories and energy. It
Mhm.
shifts your genetic material, and that's my
Mm.
most favorite test is the nutrigenomics, where I get almost 85 to 90% of my patients have their genetics mapped with me, because it shifts how your cells function. So
Wow.
it has to be so sacred. And I always tell people, if you don't have time to eat, don't eat. I'd rather have you in ketosis rather than eat garbage and inflamed.
Mm.
Take the
Wow.
time to
That's good.
cook and eat, even if it is
Yeah.
one meal a day. Set aside that 1 or 2 hours just to fuel your body and look at it as it's almost your body is your temple
Yeah.
Yes.
in stuff that is clean.
Mhm.
And you will see how the way your brain functions is so different when you fuel yourself right.
I love that. That
Yeah.
Wow.
was
It's not any particular food, it's just whole food. That's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
All
Wow.
right, more protein bars. I'm throwing them all out at their
Yeah.
name. I have
Seriously.
some in my pantry, but
You can have it
Yeah.
as a dessert, but it cannot be a meal.
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, that's good. I'll
Wow.
keep a
And I
list of
guess
this.
speaking of tips, like what other actionable tips do you have for people like that are like, if you had to pick like 3 easy tips that, somebody can take this week to start aging better, what would they be?
Yeah, yeah. I think the most important way, this is something I learned from a guy, his name is Keith Cunningham. I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys know him. I think his book is called something, the word stupid comes there, but it's the road
Okay.
less traveled or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
he's one of the speakers at Tony Robbins's Business Mastery.
Mm.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
he would say, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're building something, you have a vision, you need to take out 4 hours in the week, what is called thinking time. I think some people
Mm.
call it focus time or
Hmm.
whatever it might be. You just take a book, you don't have any electronics, you put a board outside your door, tell people that
Hmm.
they cannot enter, they cannot disturb
Yeah.
you. And that 4 hours, just allow your thoughts to go through. He does say, go with a question that you want to solve, a problem you want to solve. How do I do this? And literally think for 2 to 4 hours in a
Mm.
week. Now, some people may take out an hour or two every day to think. I would say, please spend some time thinking. Stop doing. We're
Yes.
constantly
Mm.
doing. We're never
Hmm.
being, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, I cannot stop but say, please go out and walk in nature. In fact,
Yeah.
you just stole my thunder this morning when you talked about touch grass. Literally, that's what it is. Touch
Yeah.
grass. Put your feet on the grass and and everybody's constantly in shoes inside the house. Get off that, take off those shoes, take off those socks, feel earth. That's number two. And in fact, take your computer and go walk out with your computer. I don't care.
Mm.
Just walk out,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That's number two. And number three is, please do power naps if you don't think you can get to bed. Like if you feel
Mm.
sleepy, don't fight it. Don't go get another cup of coffee like I did. I would just take a power nap for 20 or 30 minutes and you will be amazed at how refreshed you will be. That
Wow.
particular.
Mm.
That's
That's a
great.
good tip.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Might take a
That's
power nap today. Yeah.
And nap snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, nap snacks. That's what they
Yeah.
call it.
Nice.
I because
Yeah.
when I was younger, I did that. Those really didn't work for me. Like I power naps were just like I was like I would wake up, but that was because I was taking like 2 hour long naps.
Yes, that's true.
Like I was waking up and I was like, oh my god, what dimension am I in? Like what's going on? But I like one time like I was like, let me just try a 20-minute nap, and I don't even know if I actually fell asleep or like what happened because I was like in this like weird state. But I woke up and I was like, I could go run a mile right now.
Yes.
So they work. From someone who was a power nap hater before, they absolutely and 100%
Yes.
work. We're cutting it close on time here, but I have a couple more questions that I want to ask you, and then we'll hop into the audience ones. But I guess like in like a couple of sentences, we've kind of been talking about this, but just like as like a wrap up, what does aging well really mean in 2025? Like, can you kind of paint that picture for us?
Aging well means you have more energy as you get older. You are a little more clear about what you like. Like you're not as scattered as you are when you're in your 20s.
Mhm.
I mean, no disrespect to my 20-year-olds, but I'm just saying, you want to do a lot. You have a lot more energy, but
Mhm.
you really have, you're a little more focused. You have purpose.
Mhm.
Um, I would say you should not have any aches and pains. You should not have, your body should not create discomfort for you in any form. No heartburn, no difficulty sleeping, no aches and pains. So to me, a vibrant process of aging is you don't have fatigue, you can think clearly,
Mhm.
you have a purpose in life, and every day you're getting out of bed totally overjoyed to do what you want to do.
Hmm.
I mean, it is both emotional and physical, right?
Hmm.
If you look at aging, that's where people go wrong. They are constantly complaining and they feel a lack of energy. They have lots of aches and pains and they chalk it up to age, and it is not. It is exactly what you do. Your habits create your health. So develop good habits.
I love that. I really, really that was amazing. Neil, are there any other questions that you would like to ask Dr. Chellam before we go move on to our
No,
audience?
let's give the audience some opportunities.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
the audience has been going off. So we have someone saying huge insights, seen this firsthand with their grandparents and family in the medical system. Short-term fixes, no addressing the care underlying drivers, and they're very disappointed in the system. So I think a lot of people are hearing what you're saying and have had these difficult conversations with their doctors, whether it's for themselves or for their loved ones. We
I like Gary's question.
is going to sleep
Yeah.
as long as you're consistent. I feel like I
Yes,
know.
I give people hell about that. So there is a protein called S100B. If you go to Europe, you can get it checked, but in the US, you can check it in the regular labs. It's in the trauma centers. It's a protein that goes high in traumatic brain injury.
Mm,
And what happens in traumatic brain injury, it's a good protein. It allows you to heal. Anytime you have little inflammation, healing happens, right?
mm,
That's how the skin treatments are done. A lot of, we need inflammation in order to heal.
right.
But when it goes super high, it keeps you chronically inflamed. And this S100B protein goes high when people are consistently not sleeping in the night. And I told you at 10 o'clock, your brain begins to detox.
Hmm.
You will literally, your brain is getting damaged like it had a traumatic brain injury when you skip that sleeping time.
Wow.
So I would say do your best, wake up at 3 a.m. That's okay, but get to bed by 10. And I find that's my biggest hack is like if I want to do something really good the next day, I have to prepare for something or I want to do something new. I try to get to bed early the previous night so that, and I will set my alarm for 3:30 because I can wake up refreshed. But when you go to
Hmm.
sleep at 3, it's almost you're going against your rhythm.
Mm,
And when you're young, you can do a lot of things. We've all done it.
mm,
But
mhm.
as you get older, that's when it comes to, those are the people who will age very fast. When
Mhm.
talking about
Hmm.
aging, focus on your sleep.
Wow, that is so interesting. You said it's called S100B, that protein?
Yes,
So
S100B. Yeah.
I'm gonna look into that. That's okay. You that might have done the trick for me to go to bed at a reasonable hour because I definitely am and have always been a night
I'm still not convinced, but
I'm
my
still not
theory, not
convinced.
to go
Okay.
off the topic. Here's a theory. You know how they talk about personalized health and personalized medicine? You know, one theory is what if there are just personalizing your circadian rhythm, and throughout society there are people who historically would have gone to sleep at different times, So
That's true.
certain archetypes of people are people who tend to stay up late. And, like maybe back in the hunter gatherer days, those were people that were keeping watch over the tribe when everyone else was sleeping, or maybe doing creative work or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
so I wonder sometimes, like I've observed that in society that there are early birds who sleep early, wake up early, and then there are night owls. And I wonder if like the night owl should be guided towards, like suitable schedules for them, and then the early birds. It's almost like the night owls might have struggle doing an 8 to 5 because their circadian rhythm and their body isn't meant to be in that, and
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But
yeah,
they've done the science, and it's a very small percentage of people. I think the
yeah,
best way is to get it tested, get your
yeah, mm,
blood tested, get your brain tested. You can actually do an imaging scan of your
yeah,
brain, see
Mhm.
how many areas of your brain light up. And
yeah,
once you have that data, then do whatever you want, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's what I tell people. It's like do what is comfortable, but make sure you're testing your body along the way,
yeah,
making sure you're staying on track. Because the
yeah,
last thing you want, I mean, I always think, we wake up in the morning thinking, I'm not going to be the one dying of cancer. I'm not
yeah,
the one who's going to have dementia. But it
yeah,
happens.
yeah,
Like suddenly you get hit by this. My mother was 88 when she was diagnosed with cancer. She
yeah,
never in her wildest dreams ever thought she would have cancer. She said, I'm so happy because she never had a health issue. And
wow,
that's the problem, right?
yeah,
These diseases don't spare anyone.
yeah,
So make sure you check yourself on a regular basis and
Absolutely.
yeah,
then do whatever you want. If you're abusing
yeah,
your body, abusing your sleep, your brain, go for it. But make sure
yeah,
you're keeping it supported.
yeah,
There you go. I mean, they couldn't have said it more true. I love that. There is some comments about, people are loving this perspective and how insightful it is. And someone really loved your quote. The biggest trend should be, can we get the 5 pillars of health? But we have one more question from our audience. We have great insights, Dr. Chellam. What are your thoughts on companies like Function Health? Do you think everyone should have a functional medicine doctor, should see a functional medicine doctor regularly versus a medical doctor for annual visits for like preventative care?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually like Function Health more because they have made it easy for people to get testing. I think
Mm,
that's amazing. And a lot of my patients, of course, AI reads their test result. And when they show up in my clinic saying, hey, can you interpret this? I'm going to die of a heart attack because their high sensitive C reactive protein is a little high.
mhm,
So I do love the fact that they've made it accessible. And even Parsley Health is also having a membership where you just pay the same 400 something for the year and you get you get twice a year blood work. I
yeah.
will say, at least the testing, they've made testing easy. They're also going to make imaging easy, but you got to be a membership of a Function Health.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of should everyone have a functional medical doctor? Obviously, I'm biased. I think yes. um, and should they go to their regular doctor for preventative care? What you're going to the annual visit, it's not preventative care, it is detective care, right? Early
mm,
detection care. A
mm-hmm,
mammogram is not preventive. A mammogram
yeah,
is detecting something early. A PSA is detecting something early. And the tests that we do in the annual physical exam is totally useless. I will say that right now. And somebody can argue with me about that. It's absolutely useless. But yes, these screen tests like the PAP, these are all early detection because in stage 1 and 2, most cancers are completely curable today. So
mm-hmm,
it's good to detect them early. Yes, I would say the annual so-called preventative screen or early detection screens should be done, but a functional medical doctor will always try and get you down to those foundations
Mm,
before they start looking at medications. Should be always be an option for people, but it should not be the first and only option,
mm.
mm-hmm,
Yep. Yep.
right? It should just be one of the things that you get to do
Yes.
if nothing works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's almost like we go to the doctor, we expect to come back with a prescription that
That's
like
right.
you go pick up
Yeah.
from the pharmacy. Like the first question that they ask you when you get there is which pharmacy should we send your prescriptions to? So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's definitely saying a lot. But this has been fabulous. I've had
yeah,
a
agreed.
wonderful start to my morning. This has been awesome. I think it was such an invigorating conversation. I have some lifestyle changes to make, that's for sure.
Yeah, great
Some
tips. Yeah,
Yes,
Thank
100%.
you.
yeah.
But
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really loved it.
of course,
Yeah,
yes,
thanks so much for sharing the insights. I think they're applicable to people of all ages and stages in life. So yeah,
yes,
Absolutely.
really helpful.
We didn't even get through half of the questions that we had planned for you. So we're probably going to have
Yeah.
to do this again sometime because this was super
Yes.
insightful and amazing. And I think the audience really loved it too. So thank you for your time, Dr. Chellam.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Hope you have a lovely rest of
Thank
your day.
you.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.